Today we'll look into exception handling, the concept of exception handling in web application only. We'll look into that. Arun, you are in the call. Arun?
Call Prem.
Okay. Okay. So there are around 2-3 more candidates supposed to join. Not sure what happened. Okay. So anyway, today we'll see the exception handling part. Okay. So the next 2 examples that we are going to see, the exception handling and work queue. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an example. So that is something which is available, in the public also. Okay, in YouTube also you can find that example. I'll be using that example because I found that like the best for explaining exception handling and work queue. Okay. After that, we'll move into some advanced level of automation like Java automation, mainframe automation, then web services, and all of that stuff we'll discuss. Then region mode and few of the stuff are left. We'll talk about that later. Okay. So for now, let's go ahead and talk about that. So what I have done is I have already created few object and process. I have already created that. So I'll just show you how that happens, and we can discuss exception handling in that. Okay. So just give me 1 minute, and let me, that was something I was explaining in another batch. So let me just get that, and we'll see, how it happens. Okay. So wait, give me 1 minute. Let me, just save this one. File, save as. Wait, automate for 9 to 11. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll see this website. I guess if any of you are reading from YouTube or something, then you must be familiar with this, but we are going to cover this anyway. Has anyone here has covered this one, automation of this website? Anybody in this group, or you have not? So this is a website, xe.com, and we'll be automating this website, and this is something publicly available also. So I thought some of you might have gone through this example. Okay. So anyway, we'll be discussing exception handling and work queue concept through this example. And after that, we'll move to Birds Others example. So what this website does is xe.com/currency converter. Okay, so this is a website where you can convert your currency. For example, 15 US dollar to INR. And if you press, this button here, it will give you the converted value of INR. Okay, and you can convert from any currency to any currency. Okay, this is what this webpage is about. So what I have already done is there is an Excel sheet, and I'm reading data from the Excel sheet. I'm reading data from the Excel sheet to here to the amount field. And this is the amount, this is the from currency, and this is the to currency. Okay. So this is the amount from currency to currency, and we are reading multiple lines of data, multiple rows of data, and we are converting each one of them, and getting the converted value and writing it back again to the Excel sheet. Okay. So let me show you how what is happening. Let me see it is being used. For now, let's remove all of this. June currency. Wait. Okay, so this is the Excel sheet, and here, let me delete this. So here what we'll be doing, there is a column called currency, there is a column called amount. We'll be reading from this Excel sheet like currency and amount. So basically, 15 will come here. AUD, the Australian dollar, will come here. AUD, okay, AUD will come here. And then last one is INR. So all this value will get converted to INR. It will get converted to INR. Click this button. Then 761, this will be written back here. Okay, this will be written back here. Again, USD will come here, 50 will come. So here 50 will come for the next row. And then USD will come here. And again INR here. We'll convert everything to INR. Click here. And then take this value again and put it here. And similarly, do for other rows. So basically, this is the input set. So we are taking this input, inserting this in the website at the amount and from currency, converting everything to INR value, clicking on this button, getting the converted value, writing it back to the Excel sheet. Okay. This is something already done. I have already done this. So let me, just quickly show you how it is done. After that, we will cover the exception handling part in that. Okay. Anything you want to discuss on this? Let me know. Okay. So let's talk about the process first. This is okay. We'll talk about the object first, how that is automated, web automation, this one. So this is the object, and here what we have done is the application modeler. There are there are obvious fields like input value, and this is the input value field. In HTML mode, it is exactly same what we have been doing in the previous lectures. HTML mode, identify this field, input value, and then from currency field, same HTML mode, get this field, from currency field. To currency field, HTML mode, this field, this is the to currency, from currency, to currency. Then convert button, which is this button. On clicking it, it will convert. So get the attributes of this button. And then result. So which is the result? This is the result. Okay, this is the result. So basically, you just have to spy this particular value also, this particular value, so that we can read it back to the and read and write it back to the Excel sheet. Okay, this is how, what the application modeler is. And we just need 5 fields for identification and to go ahead with this application. So all the 5 fields we have identified here. After that, what we'll be doing is we'll use a write stage to write it here. So basically 3 write stage, 1, 2, 3 to write it here. Write it write an amount here, write the from currency and to currency here. Then one navigate stage to click on this button. You remember for clicking anything we are using the navigation stage. And finally, one write stage to, one read stage to read this value, right? One read stage to read this value. So, we have created multiple pages for this. Enter input value. Let me delete all this. This is not needed now. Okay, so enter input value. So here what we are doing, we are using a write stage to write value to here. Okay, so write amount, which elements should we write as input value. This is the input value, and this is the input value element, and we are writing something called input amount. I'll tell you what input amount is. Input amount is something we are receiving from the Process Studio. So, we have already discussed this before. If we want to receive something from, one process, passing data between the process and object, we'll always receive the information in the start stage. We'll always pass it back in the end stage. So, at the start stage, I'm receiving one value called input amount. That value, I am writing it here. This input amount, I am writing it to input value element. Okay. So, any difficulty you guys are facing to understand this, whatever is happening here, please let me know now. Okay, so I hope you all are comfortable with this. Okay. So this is what we are using to write into the input values field. This field we are writing it, okay, and receiving the input. As I said, we are receiving.
Hello, Prem, can you hear me?
Yeah, Arun.
So I was trying to, I had very little time this week, but I tried to go into Facebook and I was able to identify Facebook, but the first value of that field of email, like what you're talking about, input value, I was not able to identify what fields those are coming into. So can you just show that for this input value, what fields you have selected in the application modeler?
In the application modeler, you are telling? Yes?
Yeah.
What field means it? Okay, let's do one thing. Let's okay, I'm going to get the attribute again. Okay, I'm just going to override it. So launch the application, and then let's get, for example, this field. This is the input field, and to get this field, we are going to identify this field, identify different attributes of this field. So what to do? Identify. Click on this button. I already have identified, so it is asking me to replace this. So I'll just click yes. And in the HTML mode only, I'll just hover over this. So see, all these elements I can identify. All these elements I can identify here. So I only need this field here. Okay, so there are two fields here. You see, the inner one and the outer one. I just need the inner one because this is where I'll enter my value, not the outer box. Okay, so I'll take the inner one. How to take it? Control and left click. Control, then left click. On clicking of that, I get a list of attributes. This is a list of attributes that is provided by Blue Prism to identify that particular element. Okay, so I'll just remove the empty one. This one I'll remove, and then as I told, do not use parent URL. So we'll be removing the parent URL from here. Parent URL. And then click on this match column to see what all values are matching. Again, another empty is there, so just remove it. All these attributes are coming. Okay. So let's see, with this set of attributes, are we able to highlight or identify that field? So what I will do is I'm going to highlight it, and it is highlighting fine. So it means that these set of attributes are able to find this element in the website, right? So this is a way to do this. You got it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think I just missed it between highlight and identify. Okay, I did identify, but I was not able to highlight it then again. Anyways, let me check that and get back to you if I have any questions.
Sure. Apply and okay. So anyway, let's continue with whatever we were doing. So here we were, whatever value just we identified, we are just inputting some data to value. data to that field, just remember that that data is coming from the Process Studio. We have defined that in the start stage, and we'll pass this in the Process Studio because all these pages are going to be one action in the Process Studio. And similarly, same, enter from currency, we are writing some value in the from currency field. We are passing it again from the start stage only here. Enter to currency also exactly same. We are passing it here in the start stage, and we are writing it to the field element, to currency element. And click convert button. We are just clicking on the button. Let me just delete this wait stage, and okay, let's keep this. Okay, there is a launch button I forgot to explain. We need to launch the application before this, right? Okay, anyway. So there is a click convert button. I am clicking on the convert button, and then I'm waiting for some time because I'm clicking on the convert button here, and it may take around 2 seconds for this page to be loaded. So I'm using a dynamic wait. This is we have already discussed dynamic wait, where I am waiting for the result to be populated. So once the result is populated, this one is populated, we are loading the content, loading the page. So as soon as this as soon as this amount is populated, we are going to the next page. Click OK here. Okay. Site got hanged a little bit, it seems. Anyway, this is what it is, this click convert button, and then read result. We are just simply reading the result. Once it is converted, we are reading this field using a read stage. We are reading that, and we are using something called get current value. Okay, get current value from here, and we are getting this current value. So always use the get current value to read the result. So this will give us the result. We are storing that in the output element. Here we are storing it, and in the end stage, we are configuring the output. We are storing it in final result and sending it back to the Process Studio. Okay. So the Process Studio, it is sending data here. Enter input value, enter from currency, enter to currency, and receiving data from the Object Studio in the result as a form of the result. Okay. This is how I have launched the website. Start launch website, then wait for the input. So what is done is Jitu, you are in the call. You joined the call. Hello, Jitu.
Yeah, hi, Craig.
Yeah, hi, Jitu. So we are getting started about exception handling by taking an example of this xc.com/currency converter. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
This website.
Yeah,
Prem, your voice is breaking a lot.
Sorry?
I mean, there's some disturbance, Prem. Probably somebody's not muted.
Disturbance. Wait, let me put everyone in mute. Is it fine now? Is it better now? Let me know if it's good. Okay. Thanks. So I hope it's good now. So in the launch stage, what we are doing, we are just launching the website, and after launching the website, then we are just waiting for some time for the input value to be appear. So let me just delete this exception handling part. This is something we are going to discuss. Okay. So for now, let's connect this one also, like this one. So this is launch the application. This is launching the application, and there are some dynamic weights are placed. So this is something we have already discussed. This is launching of the application and entering the input value and all of the pages. Okay, let me just save it, and we are done in this Object Studio. So you understood, right, what is happening? So we are launching the website here. Let me just run it once again. We are launching the website here, and then so this is the launch state. This is the launch state here, and after launching, we are just waiting for the input value to appear. This is the input value. Sometimes because this website takes a lot of time to load, we cannot just go ahead without the content loaded. So we are waiting for the contents to be loaded. So if we wait for one field also, if this field is loaded, it means that everything is loaded in the page, right? And then after launching, we are entering the input value, which is this one. And then we are entering the from currency, which is this one. And then we are entering the to currency, which is this field. And then we are clicking on the convert button here, which is this field. After that, we are just waiting for some time for this result to be populated. And then because it is navigating to a separate page. So always, remember to wait some time. Always, remember to use the dynamic weight, every time your page is going to some other, page navigating. And guys, this dynamic weight and static weight, these are not only for your web application. This will also be useful for your Windows application that we have seen. So for example, you are automating some Windows application, and the window application, for example, is taking a lot of time to load the next screen in case of large applications. So those cases also you will use the dynamic weight. So these concepts, dynamic weight, static weight, are same for your web, Java, mainframe, all kinds of automation. This is going to be generic, okay? So as per the condition, use that. And then after clicking the convert button, we are reading the result from here, okay? So we are using a read result. We are reading the result from here. And just remember that each of these stages, we are receiving this value from the Process Studio. At the start stage, 3 value, input value from currency to currency. And in the read result, we are passing it back to the Process Studio, okay? So I hope everyone understood the Object Studio, what is happening here. Okay, so now let me explain the Process Studio. In the Process Studio, what is happening is we are just calling those functions, nothing else. So this is the main page. What we have done is here we have created another page called currency process. Let me tell you what is happening here. So for the time being, let's use the same one only. Otherwise it will be confusing. We'll later move this to a separate page. Okay, this is what we are doing. We are start and end. This is where. So we are reading this data from Excel sheet. So as you know, we'll be reading a multiple data from Excel sheet, and then we'll process those data in the Excel sheet in the website and write this converted value back to the Excel sheet, right? So what we are doing, same thing, create instance, open workbook, get worksheet collection. This is same for, this part is for your, what do you say that, Excel sheet, getting data from Excel sheet. Creating the instance, open the workbook, which workbook? In the desktop I have something called June currency, so this one, and then get worksheet collection, and here I am storing that everything in the currency collection. So here is my currency collection, this one. This is where I am storing it. And then this particular, collection will loop again and again. So we'll put everything in the loop stage, loop start, loop end, and we'll process everything in the website here. Okay. So first, what I'm doing, you should, yeah.
Prem, this is Arun. Sorry.
Yeah.
So why do you need create instance? Directly can you not open the workbook and get worksheet as collections?
You need to create an instance of the Excel sheet to do this. Okay. So I believe, I'm not sure if is it working for you to directly open workbook, because normally we need to create an instance because we need to use the handle here. So for example, in open workbook, this handle is there, right? So this handle is something needs to be generated before you open the workbook, okay? And this handle is generated in the create instance stage. See here in the output, we are generating the handle, and that handle we are using everywhere. In the open workbook we are using, then we are using in the get worksheet as collection here, and then again we'll be using here while writing the collection in handle, and while closing the workbook we'll also use the handle so that it can release this handle. Okay, so handle is the first step. We need to create the handle using create instance, and it will be used in any subsequent action that is going to happen in the Excel sheet, because Blue Prism need to understand which Excel sheet we are exactly referring to, and that is handled by that handle, particular handle only, which will be created in the create instance state. Okay, you got the point?
Yeah, Prem, I have to practice to understand that.
Okay.
Let me do
So we are going to launch the application. So one thing is that you should not put your launch application in the loop state. Otherwise, it will launch the website again and again. So we are going to launch the application once only. After that, this particular part here, we are going to put in the loop. So once from the website, first row, second row, third row, it will, convert again and again. Okay. So launch the application. So launch the application from here. Then once it is launched, then put everything in the loop state. So loop start from here and loop end here. Within the loop stage, what I am doing, we are going to call a lot of action here. So for example, enter amount. We are going to enter amount. Okay, enter this field. How to enter? Let's select the currency converter example. Okay, this one. This is from the Object Studio, and we have already published all the pages. So enter input value. And you remember, we have configured the start stage of this Object Studio. We have configured the start stage, so automatically some value is coming here. Okay, so we need to enter this value. So either we can hard code this value, but in this case we are not going to hard code this value, because this value will be picking up from the Excel sheet. So how to pick up from the Excel sheet? We have already this collection. So what we'll do? Currency dot that field. Okay. So one more thing here. So obviously in the loop start you'll be assigning the currency. Remember I have talked about defined collection and undefined collection before. Okay, so this is the example of undefined collection. Okay, this is what an undefined collection looks like. There is nothing here. We have not defined anything, right? However, so if you remember, we have discussed about tax calculation, where we talk about employee.salary, employee.tax slab, and everything. So this is defined collection. However, if you go to this collection, there is nothing here. We don't have any fields here. And these fields, the fields will be coming from your Excel sheet. Okay? So whatever the column names are here, currency, amount, and INR, this will be the field name in the collection only. So we'll see that, how that happens. So now if this collection is populated with that, what you will do is that in the enter amount, in the amount field, you will be taking currency.amount. So it is receiving from the collection. And then enter from currency, currency.currency, because this is the name of the field in the Excel sheet. Enter to currency, INR only, because we are converting everything to INR. So we are not providing any we are not providing any Excel sheet name here, because we are converting everything to INR, USD to INR, AUD to INR, everything we are converting to INR only. So I have taken a hard-coded value of INR here. And then click the convert button. This is very simple, clicking on the convert button. and then read the result. So read the result, you remember it is configured in AND state, so we'll be receiving that in the output, and that output will be storing it in currency.inr. Okay? And then rest is simple, write the collection and close the workbook. Okay? Any doubts here? What is happening? Okay. So what I'll do is that, okay, there is one error here. Let me check. Missing link from the start stage. Okay. So I'll just delete this page here. Okay. So first thing, let me put a breakpoint here. I'm putting a breakpoint and let's run this so that I can show you how the collection will look like. Okay, breakpoint reached. So till this point, my Blue Prism has executed. Now the currency collection is populated. So double click. Current value is this. Currency, amount, and INR. So see, all of this, the total replica is coming from your Excel sheet. Okay. Now we are going to process this data. So this is currency.currency, currency.amount, and currency.INR. So this is what we are doing it here. Currency.amount, then currency.currency, the second field, and here I'm writing the result to currency.INR. Okay. So let's run this process. The total process I'll be just reset and I'll run it, and we'll just see this, and then we'll move towards exception handling if you people are comfortable with whatever is happening. So let's just move it towards this. Oh God. As you can see on the left side, it is executing that, and on the right side, the workflow is there. Right, collection, close workbook, end. So it's working fine. And let's reset this. And if we go to the currency, all the value that are got converted are written here. You see, initially these were empty, so now these are written back here from the collection that we are using. Okay. So any doubts here? Any doubts? What is happening in the website? How it is taking data? Anything at all? Let me know. Let me know now, because this thing is going to be very complex when we discuss WorkQ, when we'll be implementing WorkQ here. So it's this time to, let me know if you have any doubts. Otherwise, that's absolutely fine. Okay.
So Prem, one question. So sorry, this is Arun. So now this is linked to the object studio, and that's where it's picking up the data and then writing it back. It's waiting and then writing it back to the collection and then populating that collection in the workbook. Correct?
Yes, that is correct. So we are passing data from here only. We are passing data from the process studio only, from this collection, and it is inserting into the object studio only, and there only every processing is being happening, and there only it is generating the output, which is this one. This is the output, and passing it back to the process studio again. And in the process studio, we are writing it in the collection, and this collection is getting written here to the Excel sheet, write collection. Okay. Okay. So let me just delete this.
And can you share this process with us, Prem? That will be helpful for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. So, okay, I'll do this. So I'll just export the process and object, and I'll provide it to you. Okay. And okay. So now what we are going to do is let's move this part of the application to a separate page. Okay, this part of this application. So why I'm moving this is because, see, whatever workflow you are creating, it should have a single responsibility. Okay, there is something called single responsibility principle. Okay, single responsibility principle. So it tells that, like, okay, anyway, you can go through this. And so what it means that, so it is normally we use in, when we develop web application, large scale web application, while developing that, while writing programming in Java or Python or something, like, people use this principle a lot. So it means that a single piece of code or a single function that you are writing should have a single responsibility only. So similarly here also, a page should have a single responsibility. Okay. So for example, this main page, what it is doing, it is picking up data from Excel sheet, and it is also processing in the website, and it's again, writing it back to the Excel sheet. So there are multiple, responsibility of this page only. It should have a single responsibility only. So to separate that, let's do one thing. Following that software engineering principle, we'll handle on the Excel sheet here. In this page, we'll handle Excel sheet only, and we'll move this part of the application to a separate page. So I'm just creating another page here called currency page. Okay, and I'll just move this part of the application, enter amount to read result. I'll just right click, cut it, and paste it. Paste it here. Okay, and connect everything. Now here we are going to use that page. So how to call this page from here? Because we need to call that page from here, right? So the control should come and go here. So what we'll do is that get a page element here, page stage, and on track it will pop up, create a reference to an existing page. Yes, we already have an existing page called currency page. Go next, select the currency page, and finish it. Okay. Now just do this. So now, ideally how it happens is initially, I had made some changes to this, before. What will happen for you is this, when you do this from your side, this will happen. You will get 3 errors here, like invalid expression for input parameter amount, and then this in the currency page. In the currency page, you will get some error. Why? Because this currency page, we are accessing this field, right? Currency.amount, then currency.currency, and then 1, 2, and this is 3. Currency.INR. So these are the 3 errors here, 3 errors. Because it is telling that those data are not available. Why? Because you can see here we do not have something called currency here. We don't have a currency collection. So if we create a currency collection here and get all those fields, all these errors will be removed. But we don't want to do that. That will be wrong because we already have the currency here. So if in some way we can make this currency collection available across all the pages, our errors will be gone. So what we need is this page is currently not able to see through this currency page. So all the functionality of this page is restricted to this page itself, not to any other page it is available, not available to other pages. So what we'll do is that we'll find a way so that that particular currency will be available across all the pages. Okay. So to do that, you have to do this. Very simple. Double click on the collection. And by default, for all of you, there will be something called hide from other pages in the process. This will be there. Hide from other pages in this process. So this is a default feature in Groupism, and if that is checked, then this collection or any data item it will be, there in data item. Say hide from other pages in the process. Any data item or collection, if it is hidden from other pages will not be able to identify that particular item. So what we'll do is that we'll just uncheck that. So just uncheck this button, hide from other pages in the process, and click OK. And now reset it, and all the errors are gone. Why? Because this page is now can access this particular currency. It is visible, this currency is visible across all the pages now. Okay? So initially when you shift all the data from here to here, you will get that error. And to remove that error, just come here and uncheck that. That's it. Okay? Uncheck, show it to other process. Do not hide it. Understood? So now what we'll do, now that it is moved to other pages, so it will also work fine. There is no need to run it again. So we have just moved this part of the application to this page only, and we have just connected this page from there. That's it. So now we'll be let's discuss about exception handling. We'll introduce exception handling now, and we will see how exception propagates from one page to another and how all of that stuff we'll be discussing. So first thing, what is exception handling? So the concept of exception handling, let me tell you first what the concept is. For example, if you have a you're doing some calculation, for example, that if there is something called A and you are writing A equal to 10 by 2, then you are doing B equal to what? A plus 5, and then C equal to B plus 10 maybe. And what is the result of C here? What is the result of C? So let's put this as B, and let's put this as A, B, and then A. Okay. So here B equal to 10 by 2, so this is equal to 5. And then A equal to B plus 5, so 5 plus 5 equal to 10. And then C equal to A plus 10, so 10 plus 10 equal to 20. So this data will be 20, right? It's very simple, mathematics. So what will happen if we, do 10, B equal to 10 by 0? What will happen here? If we do B equal to 10 by 0, when your computer is executing this process, 10 by 0 equal to infinity, right? So in computer science, you do not have something to store infinity. There is no variable, there is no concept of storing infinity, okay? So it will throw an error, and that, it will throw, it will give you some error, the program will end it abruptly here, and you won't know what is the error here. So what we can do is, ideally, what we should do is, if something is getting divided by 0, we should give them a message instead of stopping the program from here. So see, what will happen is the program will stop here without telling you anything. The program will abruptly stop here, and it will not execute anything. It will not give you any error message. It will just stop from there, and you won't be knowing why it stopped. Okay. So this is 3 lines of code. Imagine there is 1,000 lines of code, and in between somewhere, B is getting populated with something like this. So this is the concept where we'll be using exception handling to handle exception in runtime. So these are called runtime exception handling. Okay. So what is happening is we are getting some error when the program is running. We initially didn't know that B will be divided by 0 only. If we knew, we'll come here and make it correct only. Okay. So when the program is executing, the computer suddenly encounters that there is something called divided by 0, and it throws some error. Okay. So these are runtime exceptions, and we'll see how to handle exception that happens in the runtime. Okay. There are some exceptions which is given at compile time only. For example, this is the file that we are executing, this open workbook. So this currency file, let's make it currency 11.xls, which is not present. And if we reset and if we run it now, this will also give you an error. Okay, you see here. Now my Blue Prism doesn't know that if I have a currency 11 or not, but still there are no errors here. See, there are no errors, 0 errors. But obviously I'm going to get this error because currency 1111 is not present. Okay, so if there is some error, obviously I'll check this and I'll fix it. What about the errors which my Blue Prism does not show, and when I run the application I get the error? What will I do? So let's run this application, for example. You see here, file not found, and it opens a dialog box like this. So imagine if you have deployed this in production and you are thinking that your process normally takes, suppose that Excel sheet has 5,000 lines of code, 5,000 rows of data to be processed as a currency collection, currency in the website. So you think that 5,000 lines of code, each line, for example, take 1 second to be processed, then this is 5,000 seconds, right? Divided by 60 is, for example, let's say around 90 hours or something like that, 90 minutes or 90 minutes, okay? So that is 1.5 hours. So you are thinking that you will put this into production and you will go for a lunch break for 1.5 hours, okay? Because you are thinking that it will complete in 1.5 hours. But in between somewhere, at the 5th row or at the 10th row only, it is throwing some error. Okay, and it is not going to process the below records if it is throwing some error. So if it is throwing this exception at the 5th row in your Excel sheet, it is not going to process the rest of the item. So you are losing your 1.5 hours, and it is running in production. So you are facing a lot of issue here. It is going to be escalated. You need to know some way. You need to put a lot of exception handling in place because such cases arises every time. Every day in production, most of the time you'll get some sort of exception. And you need to have proper exception handling in place so that it just does not end abruptly here. So it doesn't make sense. The process is ending here and throwing some pop-up message. At least if it is not able to process it here, obviously, you are giving a wrong, Excel sheet here. It is not going to process this because everything is wrong here. But at least it should end the process ideally, right? It should give you a proper error message in some sort, or it should at least send you a SMS immediately or send an email immediately. As soon as this happens, imagine you are having a lunch, and as soon as this happens, you get an SMS that your production stopped working. You can come back and check what happened. So we're going to see, how to do all those stuff, how to do such exception handling. Okay. Just one minute. Okay. So this is one case of the exception that I'm talking about. This is another case, the one I was talking about, the divided by 0. This is called divided by 0 exception. So for example, if this is also happening, 10 by 0 or some number by 0, it will throw you some abrupt exception in between somewhere. Okay, this is called divided by 0 exception, to be more specific. Okay, you can also call is that arithmetic exception. There are multiple kinds of exception. That exception that we face, that is called file not found exception. Okay. These are the different types of exception. Okay. Divided by 0, arithmetic, file not found, then buffer size overloaded. You are doing something where you are consuming all the memory of Blue Prism. You have put a for loop like this, for example. You have put a loop the way you have put loop start and loop end, where the loop runs forever. There is no ending in the loop. So what will happen is a time will come where Blue Prism memory will be finished only. Okay, so that time you may get some error like buffer memory reached or memory exceeded or something like that. So there are a lot of kinds of exceptions, and we'll discuss about that. So let's talk about let's introduce some exception into our the web application, and we'll see how we can handle it. First thing, I'll make this correct. What I will do is that I'll go to the Object Studio. Okay, And in the application modeler, I'll provide the way I was providing some wrong Excel sheet data, right? Same way, what I will do is I'll provide some wrong input value. Okay, so this is the part to identify the input value. What I will do is that instead of input 1, I'll put input 1111. So my Blue Prism fails to identify that element. So input value will now cannot be identified. Okay, so let's save this now. Open the Process Studio and let's run this now. Here it should get the error. Oh, where is it? I guess did you change the correct thing? Because it should not be able to enter it here. Wait. Because the amount field is wrong, it should not be able to enter to that field. So either we have entered into wrong data, or we need to save it properly. So okay, one more thing. Let me just check. So what will happen is that such changes may not reflect properly immediately by Blue Prism. It takes some time. So you may face such problems, in Blue Prism environment. So you may need to close and open it up a few times if it doesn't work. So let me just re-verify if we have changed that in the correct place. Yeah, it's correct. So most probably it did not pick that data immediately. So let's open this up and now let's run this, because the input amount field is wrong, so it should not enter there. Now let's run this and see if it is giving you some exception. Oh, why it is
Prem, should we republish it?
No, that should not be the case there. But the thing is, it has not picked up the changes yet. I'm not sure what it happens. Many times. Web process 911. Okay, understood. So what we are doing is that, see, I have, copied this from another batch, the June batch to June 911. But the thing is that I'm still using their business object only, Web Automation June business object only. However, our business object is different. Okay, and we have introduced the error in that business object. However, this Web Automation June is the correct one. Okay, so I have to select this one. Okay, so that is the problem. I think this should be fine now. Let's see. Okay, so did you see there? I was at the currency page, but when I run the application will always start running from the main page. Okay, remember this also. This is also an important concept. No matter which page you are in, your application starts running from the main page only. Okay, so let's run this now and see what is happening. Oh, what happened? What is this loop? Okay, so I got an error from this here that failed to perform step 1 in right stage, right amount on page, enter input value not connected. Okay, not connected. how this look got changed here.
That's uat.xe.com.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, what we'll do is, so we're getting the error in the amount phase, so that is fine. Let me just test one thing that if everything is working currently, because okay. Let's just put one iteration if it is working fine. Not connected. Okay. So I'm not sure mistake while doing a copy paste maybe from the other. If you are seeing so something must minor should be there. So okay. Okay, anyway, let's do one thing, we'll see, how it was working fine and what happened. Anyway, what I'm doing is I'm putting this input as, input 1111 only, okay, which is the wrong one. And in the web automation 911, then this is fine. And let me save this. And let me go back to the Process Studio. Okay. Here we are launching from the wrong one. Maybe that is the case. Okay, now everything should be fine. Let's save it and reset and launch it. No. Okay, so now let's do the exception handling stuff in the web process 911. So I have done some mistake here, copy pasting data from wrongly copy pasting maybe. Otherwise we'll use the existing one, no problem. The not connected is something I'm not sure. Wait, let it execute. It will throw an, okay, now it's correct. previously we were getting an error called not connected, so that was odd to me, and that is not the right exception actually. It was not connected because in the main page, I was launching from some other app and I was executing this. So everything is fine now. So as you can see, the exception here comes that right amount on page enter input value, no element match the supplied query item. It means that the enter value field was not found. So this is the error because we have provided the wrong, the HTML path that we have provided for the input value is wrong only. Okay, this is the reason we are getting this error. No elements match the supplied query item. So, like, how should we go about, handling this exception? How should we go about handling this exception? So, first, let me, explain it, here only. Then when I explain a concept called exception bubbling, I'll get all this, data here. So for the time being, let me take this where it was exactly. So that was a part of, you can use multiple pages like this also. For time being, let me, paste it here only, the way it was there before, and let's remove the currency page and let's put everything here. Because this is the first time I'm using, explaining your exception handling. So you'll be confused. There is a concept called exception bubbling that we'll discuss very soon. For now, let's put it here. And okay. So now let me delete this page also. Otherwise, we'll get something. Okay. Here, as you can see, the exception can happen anywhere. If I know where the exception will happen, I'll just go and fix it before running it. But exception may happen anywhere in production or development, wherever you are running. It can happen here, it can happen here, enter amount, during clicking the convert, or anywhere in this application, this whole application, exception can happen. So how will I handle a page level application? I cannot take care of, exception handling at each of the states just by thinking that exception may happen anywhere in this page. So what I will do is, I need some global exception handling so that if anywhere in the process any exception is happening, it will catch the exception. If I can do something like that, then my problem is solved. Okay. If anywhere in between start and end, if any exception is happening in between start and end, any exception is happening, then my Blue Prism like environment should catch that exception. So for that, we have something called recover and resume, and this will act as a global, exception handling. So what this recover and resume does is, this recover stage particularly, it will catch any exception that is happening in this stage. So from the start to end, anywhere inside this process an exception occurs, it will be caught by recover stage. And what the resume stage will do, it will diffuse the exception. So whatever exception, so basically when you get an exception, it won't go forward, right? So that is absolutely correct. You have a mistake here, it won't go forward. But it should not stop here. The program should end here at least. Okay? So that, our Blue Prism process, at least end at the end stage. So Blue Prism normally takes, run some operation when it ends here. Otherwise, it will not run some cleaning operation. So your program should always, end at the end stage here. Okay. So let's run this and see how recover stage is catching the exception anywhere from the application. So what I will do is that I'll just connect this, recover, resume, and like this. And now let's run this and see the enter amount exception, how it is being handled. So here the exception arises. Now let's see how it is handling. Okay. So as you can see here, it is ending properly now. How it ended? Anywhere in the program, an exception arises. It is caught by the recover stage, and the exception is diffused by the resume stage. When I say diffused, it means that the exception will be destroyed. There will be no, exception anymore when it passes the resume stage. It means that it is resuming the, operation, and it is ending it properly. Okay. So this is how the exception handling is done here in case of Blue Prism. So anywhere in the, because we don't know from which stage the exception will come. That is the reason we are placing a global exception handling in place. So anywhere in the process, any exception comes, it will handle here. Okay? You understood what is happening here. Any doubts here? Okay. So now the problem is, previously we were able to know what the exception is. Here, the exception has no mark at all. We don't know what happened. So we need to capture what exactly the exception happened. Obviously ending correctly is fine, reaching the end stage is fine, but we need to, understand, how exactly the exception is happening and what is the error. Otherwise here the Blue Prism doesn't show the error message, right? So where exactly should we calculate that? Before the resume. Just understand this, resume stage will always destroy your exception. So after resume stage, you don't have any way to know what exception was there, because by the time it will come here, the exception is destroyed. So before resume and after recover only, we should capture the exception. Okay, how to capture the exception? Let's drag and drop one calculation stage. Double click, name it as exception message. And we have not talked about this exception function. Okay, so there are multiple functions here, exception tag, lot different exceptions. See, these are the kind of few of the exceptions that we have created. Currency exception, this is custom exception. And then file not found, internal system exception, utility exception, workbook not found, worksheet not found. These are few of the exceptions that are provided by Blue Prism. And this is the currency exception that is created by me in one of the previous batches. So it will give you all the exceptions that happened before in your Blue Prism environment. So we'll create few exception, custom exception later. For the time being, let's capture this exception. How? Using the exception detail. Okay. So we'll use this function, paste it, and let's store this in exception message here and click OK. So this function, exception detail, will give you the detail of the exception. Click OK again. Move it to right side and this, just connect this. Reset and now run this. Okay, it ends fine, and we are also getting the exception. What is the exception? Failed to perform step 1 in right stage, the right amount on page, enter input field. This is the name of the page in the Object Studio. No such elements, no elements match the supplied query item. So it means that in this page, enter input value page in the Object Studio, there is something called write amount field, and this field in the application modular was not found. Such elements was not found. Okay, this is the exception, and we are able to capture the exception fine. So this is the way you'll be able to, get the exception. So what is the use here? So see, this exception, we get a lot of exception in production environment and so. So we need to capture all the exceptions. So either, what you can do is you can again take an Excel sheet here, and you can write this exception to Excel sheet. Okay, you can that you can create a new Excel sheet called exception, and you can write all the exception to the Excel sheet. So maybe if your job is running for 2-3 hours, maybe after 4-3 any hours that your job is running, you can come and check the Excel sheet if any exception is there. If it is there, then you can go and verify it all together. Okay, but imagine if somewhere here is happening and not able to process it, you don't have any way to know where exactly what happened. However, if you have some exception handling like this in place, what you can do is that after this, you can put some exception, Excel sheet report here. Put here and put here, not the decision. Create instance, open workbook, and write whatever you want. Just, write it to some Excel sheet. And at the end of the day, you can check the Excel sheet for, checking what all exception happened. There are other ways also. For example, as soon as any exception happens, you want a mail to be sent to your mailbox so that, you can check immediately in the production something bad is happening, and you can, get back to what wrong is happening. How to send a mail, we have already seen that. Maybe what you can do is that you can put a decision stage here, and you can check that our exception message, dot length, how to calculate the length of the function using this. If this length is greater than 0, it means that there is some exception message. Okay? What you can do, you can send an SMS. How to send an SMS, we have already seen. Use this, double click, use email POP3 SMTP, configure, and then use this, double click, email POP3 SMTP, and then send message. Okay? You can provide your email ID here and just connect everything like this. Understood? Before the exception destroys, it will send you an automated direct email that some exception happened in this case. So what should be the, again, you can customize it. While sending the error message, in the subject only, you can use the exception message. So you can read, okay, this exception at this place in the subject only. You got the point, how you can customize this. Any doubts here, guys? In the exception handling part? Everyone is comfortable? What is being discussed here?
Prem, can you just slightly again, once more go over a little bit after recover what you did once more?
Okay. So recover is something that will capture the exception. Resume is something which will destroy your exception. So in between recover and resume, before the exception is destroyed, you need to perform whatever operation you want. First thing is that we are capturing what was the exception. So in the calculation stage, we are using this exception detail function and this exception detail function will provide, has an output of exception message. So we are creating a new data item to store this message. And this message here is getting stored here. That's it. Now, what you want to do with this message, that is your job, okay? For example, you can plan to write it to some Excel sheet, you can plan to send an SMS, or whatever you want, okay? That is what I'm doing here. For time being, let's just write this exception here. Understood?
Yeah, understood this part. So what is it? That decision box is, to identify whether that exception message should be written to some other Excel sheet, and you can review that.
Yeah. So, after the exception is caught and before the exception destroys, whatever operation you want to perform, you will put it here in between recover and resume. Okay. So, any other doubts, guys? Anyone else, or if you're fine in it?
Supreme, I understand recover
Okay.
and resume, but what about this exception box that is there on the left side? So there is an exception also, right? So what?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's talk about this. So this exception box, it is used to throw a new exception. Okay, so there are multiple ways you can throw a new exception. Either it is automatically being thrown by the Blue Prism tool, or you can throw a new exception with a new error message by your own. Okay, so for example, here what is happening when I run this. Let's run this once again. Okay, here the exception that we are getting here is this. This is the exception that we are getting. Okay, that fail to perform step 1 in write stage, write amount on page, enter input value, no such element. Something like this we are getting the exception. So mostly if you are in a very good team and most of the teams follow a error handling practice. So if you are like if it is something like that, then the exception message that you are going to write and it will be generic to for the whole project. So how it happens is the page name. So here what is the page name? For example, the process name. The process name is web automation 9 to 11 something, right? 9 to 11, and then the object page name, for example. So enter input value and the error name. Write amount field not found. I want such an error message to be displayed. I don't want this system generated error message failed to perform step 1 in write stage and all this. Okay, I want an error message like this because in my team people are following this practice. So for example, someone else is working on separate module. For example, order processing. So order, and then in the order page, suppose get order, the get order page, and the error is, for example, invalid order amount. Okay, this is the way, for example, my team is following the exception messages. So how will I enforce Blue Prism to write a custom error message? How will I, I don't want to take this error message. I want, Blue Prism to, have a custom error message. This is the first step. This is the first requirement where we'll be using this, exception exception stage. Another is the exception stage will be used to throw a new exception. So basically, we can throw a new exception. So all these are part of also programming language. So for example, let's take in Java or something, throws in Java. So what happens is, they can throw a new exception. I can throw a new exception from any of my function. Okay, throw new arithmetic exception, divided by 0 exception. I was talking about divided by 0 exception, right? So how to throw a new arithmetic exception if I know that this function may cause an arithmetic exception. So that is also where my exception stage will be used. Let's see, how exactly it will be used. Later on, when we, after we finish the Java mainframe and all, maybe before that, we'll talk about the code stage. We'll talk about the code stage in the Object Studio, where I'll be just showing you some dummy code, and I'll be handling exception at a by writing programs also. Okay, I'm not explaining that because most of you are not from programming background and all, but I'll be showing 1 or 2 examples by writing code stage and how to write the code stage, where to write the code, and all of that. So at least you get familiar with the coding at the application level in Blue Prism. Okay. But before that, let's use the exception stage, for example. So this exception that we are getting, this is happening in the enter amount stage in our Object Studio, right? So just give me 1 minute. Okay. So it is happening in the enter amount stage in the Object Studio. So now what we'll do is we'll throw the exception from the Object Studio only, and we'll change the customized message. What we'll do is that we'll go to the Object Studio, and from there we'll pass this message. Whatever exception is happening, this is getting populated to the default message now. So we'll customize this message from there. So let's use this state there only. I'm saving this. And go back here. Where it is happening, enter input value. Here, this is the error, right? We are getting failed to perform right stage, right amount. This one, and enter input value page. Enter input value page. So here, let's handle the exception, because anyway, what is happening is the control is coming here only. What is enter amount? It's just an action. The control anyway is coming to the Object Studio only here. And here it is giving the exception because it is not able to find this element. So let's handle the exception here only. So similarly, recover, then resume, and then we are going to throw a new exception from this page. Okay, why we are going to throw a new exception? Because we need to, throw the exception so that the Process Studio can catch it. Okay, this is the way the exception propagation happens. I know that, I got an error here. Okay, I know that I got an error here. Now I need to throw a new exception using the exception stage here, so that whoever called me, this method called me. Enter amount stage from the Process Studio is calling this one. Whoever called me, if I throw a new exception here, this particular one will catch the exception. Okay. So what I will do is that it's same, okay, as this page is getting an exception when right amount action stage. So here the exception is getting generated. So recover will automatically catch the exception. The resume stage will diffuse the exception, and here we are going to throw the exception. Double click. Here we have something called exception type and exception detail. In exception detail, let's write this exception. WA911, enter input value, right. Okay, this we may get some error maybe. So be careful, sometimes this greater than symbol, it is taken by Blue Prism as this one. So 9 is greater than 11, right? 10 is greater than 5, like that. So if you are comparing this is greater than this, you will get some error. So make sure it's not something like that. I have put that in double quotes anyway. So exception type. What is the exception type? These are the exception types. So this is a good I would say interview question and certification question based on the exception type. Okay, so what are the different exception type defaultly present in Blue Prism? Those are bad handle, custom exception, file not found, invalid direction parameter, invalid input parameter, system exception, utility exception, workbook not found, worksheet not found. These are the different types of exception. Apart from this, we can make our own exception called custom exception. Okay, so you can write it anything here, and whatever you are going to write. So you see here currency exception. From where it is coming? Because the last time I showed the demo to some group, I'm not sure, I have taken an exception called currency exception. I can take anything here. Okay, I can take XC exception. Okay, I can take whatever name you can write it here. But just remember that whatever you write it here, from the next time onwards, that will be considered as an exception in your application. So put some meaningful name. So I'm again going to use the currency exception because this is the currency converter example. Okay, that's the reason I have named it as currency exception. But you can name it anything. Okay, and then click OK from here, and that's it. Let's connect it. Now what will happen is, from anywhere in the page an exception happens, recover will get that exception. So what exactly is happening here? Here input value is not being found. So recover stage gets the error, then it is diffused by resume state, and here we are throwing a new exception. Okay? And this exception will propagate back to the calling function, which is enter amount state. And now enter amount stage also has an exception. So this recover will catch that. And this exception message, this message will be the customized message that we are sending from here, this message. Okay? Let's run this. We are again going to face one error here. We'll solve that error. But first, let's run this and we'll see what is happening. Okay. So, running it again. Oh, what happened? It didn't come here. Any mistake we are doing? One error. Invalid item data must be between and. Okay. Exception. Okay, so it is telling invalid. This one maybe due to this greater than symbol 911. Let me put a just validate it. Okay, so this looks fine. Okay, error is gone. Let me save this. Close it. That's it. Set. So many times actually it does not reflect the changes properly, so I'm just closing and reopening it. Let's try to run this and see if it is fine properly. Otherwise, we'll see. We must have done some minor errors here and there. Okay. You see, there is a blinking of the some messages. It's blinking. Subsheet 1, enter input value. Then something is happening here. Okay. This is the error that I was, talking about. This is what will happen, and a time will come when Blue Prism may run out of memory. It will not be immediate, but after certain maybe 30 minutes or something, Blue Prism may run out of memory if something is going in a loop like this. So it means that there's a very high level blinking here again and again every microsecond. It means that some operation is being happening again and again in a loop. Something is going in an infinite loop. So let's see what is happening. I'm just going to stop this here, reset, and I'll go back to the Object Studio. The problem is here, that the reason that is, happening again and again, the infinite loop is, it's here. But the problem here, what is happening is, as I said, recover stage is used to catch any exception in this whole page. So in this whole page, any exception is happening, recover stage will catch that exception. So it's great that, right amount input value is not getting found and recover is catching that exception. But what is happening is, till this point it's fine, and in this point what is happening is that exception is getting destroyed. As I said, resume will resume the operation by diffusing the exception. So now the exception got diffused. So now what is happening is when we are throwing the exception from here, as I said, exception is used to throw a new exception. So in this case, we're throwing a new currency exception. So this is like, throw new currency exception. Now when I throw this exception, where it will go? From this, where should the control go to? Any answers here? See, we're throwing the new exception here, and recover is there to catch any exception in this page. So obviously, recover will again catch the exception, right? Because this acts as a magnet to capture all exception in the page. So again, what is happening? That recover one caught the exception, resume destroyed the exception. Again, exception one is throwing a new exception. So again, recover one is catching that. This is throwing and this is catching it. This is happening in an infinite loop because this is to throw the exception and this is to catch the exception. It is what they are doing, but the thing is they are at a single page only. So this is the reason they are going at, in an infinite loop again and again and again, same thing is happening. So we need to solve this problem, so that exception can throw the, exception one can throw the exception without catching it at this page. So to solve this, we have something called block stage. This is something we have not used yet, block stage. So I click this and draw a block around this. I'll make it like this. So what the block stage will do is that it will only catch exception in this block only. So whenever you are drawing a block, so if any exception is happening inside this block only, recover one will capture. So for the first time, when right amount field is creating the exception, when it is not able to find the input value field, it is, the recover one will, catch the exception. It does not care about any exception outside this block. So for example, in exception one, we are throwing a new exception. But recover one will not catch that exception because this part is not inside this block. Okay, this is how we are going to solve this problem. Just draw a block wherever this is called the scope of exception. So now the scope of exception is in between this block, and recover one and right amount are only eligible to participate in that scope. Okay, so now let's save this and we'll run this. Any doubts here in this part? Okay. So now I'm going to run this. Okay. Now got by the recover one. So enter amount, recover one, exception message and all. Now if you see the exception message, this is a custom exception message that we have provided. Web automation 911, then enter input value, inside that enter amount field not found. So this is a custom exception message that is propagated from the Object Studio. Okay. So this is how we'll be using exception to throw a new exception. Okay. And so you can use this exception handling again at multiple pages also. So wherever you want, you can throw a new exception and it will just do its job. Any doubts here, guys?
Yeah, Prem, this is Arun. Little confusing here. The same recover one and same resume one is there also. So, how is it differentiating or how is it catching? That's one question. And the block was, I understand that it's looping again and again. That's the reason memory is being eaten up. The block is something that I didn't understand. So, like say, if I have, if I look at data items and other items, if I put say data 1, data 2, data 3, it automatically comes as data 1, 2, and 3. But if I look at it, recover 1 and resume 1 are the same there also. I think in the next page.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. Okay. The name of your this name doesn't matter here. So you can make it anything. If you want to make it recover 11 or whatever, that is absolutely fine. The thing is that it has a very simple job. Recover means, whatever recover stage you have. So for example, okay, before going to that. So whatever recover you have, anywhere inside the page, any exception happens, this recover will catch that exception. You don't care about what is the name of this recover. This recover will catch any exception that is happening in this page. Similarly, we have one page here also in the Object Studio. Okay, we have one page here also. So any exception that will happen here, that will be catched by this recover. You don't worry about what is the name of the recover stage here. Also, it is absolutely fine. So for example, I have a data item here. I have a data item here called data 1. And if I have a data item here called data 1, these two are absolutely different, right? There is no connection here, data 1. This data 1, that data 1 are different because this is a separate page and this is a separate page, right?
Okay, one is an object.
So don't go with naming convention. Like we can name it anything, and even if the name is same also, it doesn't matter because the functionality of this recover stage is to catch any exception that happens here. So it doesn't mean that if this is recover 1 and this is recover 1, any exception from here, they will be confused with which recover 1 to go to. It is not going to be the case. Got the point?
Okay. So one question. So if I have multiple recovers in multiple pages in the same process studios, same this one, it will just catch the exception for that page.
Right. So, for example, if I put another recover here, let's put another recover and resume here and let's see what is happening. So, recover, resume, and let's connect this and let's connect this. Okay. So, as I'm telling you that recover will catch any exception from, any exception that is happening, right? So, if I have two recover states, where would the exception will go, right? So, let's run this and see. I have two. Now, both of them should actually act as a magnet for any kind of exception. Now that we have two, then let's see where exactly the exception goes to. I'm just running this application. So let's not go there. What I will do is that, okay, fine. Let's run through that. Now here we'll get an exception at enter amount. You got the point here? So anywhere, no matter how many recover states you create in the page, the first one that you have created, it will only be handled by that. It doesn't matter how many recover and resume stage are there where, if the recover and resume can be anywhere. But the first one that you have created, it will only handle all the exception. It will only act as a magnet for all kinds of exception that is happening in the page. It does not care. It will simply ignore any other kinds of recover and resume that you are putting in the page. This is exactly what happened in this case. You got the point?
Yeah, Prem.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other doubts that you have? Also, guys, you can go to portal.blueprism. I don't want to log in there now. Go to portal.blueprism.com, log in with your email ID and password. And there go to, there's something called LMS. Under LMS, there is something called, you'll be having your learning path and go to exception handling. Practice a lot of very good questions are there under exception handling, and you can go ahead and practice them. Okay. I would suggest that for people who are going to write the basic examination, and mostly for people who are at a lower level of experience and technical people who are planning to switch at a technical level, to have technical understanding of what is happening in exception handling, because these kinds of interview questions people ask in technical interview, like this is the case and this is the exception handling I'm doing, what will happen, how to write custom exception, how to throw a new exception and all that. Okay. So this is all about exception handling, and so this way that whatever we discussed here, okay. So there is something called a concept called exception bubbling. This is one concept in Blue Prism, and what exception bubbling is the way exception propagates in Blue Prism. So what is happening here is, for example, if I do a step over, what just happened? Okay, there are multiple ones. Let me just close this. Okay. Okay, anyway, I was, planning to show one step at a time, but it's taking a lot of time. Step over, step over. Okay. Okay, website got loaded. Now step over. Now what I will do is I will do a step in here. So while doing all this, I was trying to show how it goes inside, but anyway, I just did step over again and again. So let me just describe it verbally only. So what I was trying to say is that the way the control goes. So for example, if I take this part now to the other page, so for example, let's create a page 2 here. Obviously, this is a wrong name, so convert to INR page, for example. And if I take this part of the application here, right, and hopefully this is not hidden. Now, let me just connect that page. and reset. Now the way the exception propagate, now what will happen is the control will go from this page, main page, to currency to INR page. And again, currency to INR page, what will happen is it will start executing this. And again, in the enter amount stage, it will go to the enter amount object studio, which is here. From here, it will handle the exception. It will throw a new exception. The control will come here. And from here to the calling page again, which is here. And from in this main page, it will be handled by recover one. So what is happening here is, we have the main page first. So we have the main page. This is the main page, and main page is calling a sub page, and which is this convert to INR page, and we have the object studio here, for example. Right. So this is the main page, and this is the second page, and this is the object studio. Okay. And here, this is what is happening. Convert to INR, convert, we have the recover stage here. Convert to INR stage is getting called. Here, we have a stage called enter amount, right? We have the enter amount here. And this enter amount is calling the enter input value page here. This is the enter input value page in the object studio, right? So, here the exception is getting generated, and the same exception, we are throwing it using an exception state, and this exception is getting propagated to the calling page. So here, enter amount was calling here, so it propagates here. Now, who is calling enter amount? The main page. We are calling this page from the main page. So again, the same exception, travels from this second page to the main page, and in the main page, we have a recover stage here. So any exception, as this page is returning one exception, this recover gets this exception. And here we are handling that exception. So this way of exception propagation, right? It goes to here to here, here to here, and when the exception happens, it gets back in the same way. To here, then to here. This way of exception propagation is called exception bubbling. Okay, this is called exception bubbling in Blue Prism. This is one of the key terminology. You can get this question in either interview or certification as well. So just remember what exactly is exception handling. This is the concept of that. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide you a document only for exception handling. So this is all about exception handling, guys. We completed exception handling, okay? And exception handling is an important concept in interview and certification. Just remember that. Wait. Here in the foundation training document that I have provided you, there error management. We have something called error management, okay? This chapter, error management, and if you're going for the first certification, the Blue Prism Developer Certification, which is the fundamental one, you will get, questions from this bottom, okay, here. See here, all the recover and resume, and then how to throw a new exception using the exception page. We discussed about that, and all whatever we have discussed, okay? Exception type, this is the custom exception. Oh God. Just 1 second. Okay, so this is all we have discussed. The exception detail, using the exception detail function, we have talked about everything. So please go through this also. Please go through this, chapter 8, which is error management. Okay, and if by chance we have left something here and there, you would be able to cover that here. Okay, so if you get some time, just go through this chapter 8 called error management or exception handling, whatever you call it, how to handle the exception and everything it is there. Also, I'm going to send you an advanced PDF only for exception handling. I'm not sure. Oh, so there are some guys who are supposed to join at 12. They are joining. Rahul, you're in the call? Okay, anyway. So this is all about exception handling. So I'm going to send you that PDF also, or you can download it from the portal if you want. Search for exception handling, and there is only special document for exception handling also. So you can go through that also. And guys, do not go through that if you are planning for your basic level, because those exception handling, they are like at an advanced level. They have a lot of 20 or 25 pages only for exception handling. Okay, so what I would suggest is that initially for the time being, go through the chapter 8 of this document, and it should be sufficient for whatever you are planning immediately. And for someone who is at a senior architect or technical lead level, they can plan to go through that document. You can get those documents in the portal. And also, guys, in the portal, as I said, you have the Blue Prism portal. Go to Blue Prism portal. You have the exception handling test. So appear the test. They have a lot of very good questions, 10 to 15 questions on exception handling, multi-level exception handling, how to handle exception in a nested for loop or such examples. There are variety of examples, variety of questions. So please go ahead and practice those as well. Okay. So that's all about the exception handling and everything that I wanted to discuss today. And we'll continue from tomorrow. Anything you guys want to discuss, let me know. No question from your side, guys? Everything is fine, right?
So one thing, Prem, sorry, Arun here. So block is once that recover enters, and then you block it, just so it does not go into a loop. That's what it is, right? Can you go to the
no, block is like a block of I would say, let me show you. So block is basically if I want to see. So what is a recover? Recover will catch any exception that is happening throughout this page, right? So anywhere from this page, any exception is occurring, recover will get the exception from here, anywhere in the page that exception is happening, it will get. If I want to restrict the scope of that exception, suppose I want recover to catch exception only, at the stages where this block is there. So now recover will only get exceptions from right amount stage. Okay, because this block is there between right amount and recover only. Now, if exception here, one exception is happening, recover will not catch. Ideally, it should catch, but it will not catch because it is not at a page level now. Now it will catch only exception within this block. You got this?
Okay. So okay, understood.
Yeah. Any other doubts or anything that you want to discuss, guys? Others?
Hello, Prem?
Yeah, Mahesh, tell me.
Can you open that Process Studio?
Sorry?
Process Studio.
Process?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Over here we talk about enter value stage exception. Suppose for the first record we found error in enter value exception. But for next record we found error in for different stage like enter value stage. So how can we handle these two exceptions?
You're telling that you will get first exception in enter amount, then in somewhere else.
And for the next
You're
record,
telling
maybe
that.
we found. Yeah.
Okay. There's some disturbance from your side. So, you're telling that if we are getting an exception here and maybe getting an exception here, how can we handle both exceptions? Are you asking that?
Suppose for next record we found error in a different exchange stage.
Okay. So the thing is that the first exception that you will get, that is going to be written here. So whatever exception you are getting, that will be thrown to a particular recover. So if you have a page level exception like this, there is no way you can go to the second exception. For example, there is an exception here and there is an exception here, and if you have a page level exception handling like this, you cannot get this exception before rectifying this exception. So remember, exceptions are errors, and errors needs to be removed from the workflow. So if there is an exception here and it is applied at a page level, you need to first solve that exception before you can go to the exception. Otherwise, Blue Prism will never catch this exception because the flow is never coming here, right? We talk about enter value exception. What if we found error in enter value exception stage for next record? How can we handle this exception? Okay, so are you asking about this? So for example, here, next record, when you say I have for example 1,000 records in the Excel sheet. First 100 records ran fine, and what if I get an error in 101 record? How shall I execute the one? So for example, if you are asking this, so for example, I have 4 records here, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So, so it may happen that, record 4 is generating an exception. So I'm continuing by assuming this is what you are asking, otherwise we can talk one-to-one later. So it may happen that record 4 may, cause some exception. So record 2 worked fine, record 3 worked fine, record 4 is causing the exception. I do not want that due to record 4. So now, ideally what should happen, if record 4 is creating an exception, down the line, whatever I have, nothing will execute. Right, down the line, everything will stop working, but that is not the ideal scenario. What should happen is if record 4 is creating an exception, we should skip the error data. We should skip record 4 and we should again continue to work from record 5. So what should ideally happen is, if it is providing 112, then 113 as well, and this is the exception, then if it is not able to create the INR, we should leave it as blank, okay? And or we should keep it as error, error, and we should again continue to do it 5, 6, and 7. So this part, if you are asking about this is, we are going to, cover this part when we will be doing the work queue part. So this feature is there when we explain about work queue. So when we'll see, how to handle exception there. So if one record is only throwing error, we do not want all the records to be not processed after that. So we'll see all of this. So this is just that we have not discussed this case yet. We'll see this case, how to handle this case. Such exception at record level exception in Excel sheet. We'll see that. We'll explain this maybe tomorrow's class or maybe after that, next one after that. Okay? You got the point, Mahesh. I hope that is what you were asking.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. Then, so if you do not have any other doubts, then bye. So you can you can go through this. Maybe tomorrow you can let me know if you are facing any issue somewhere. Okay. Okay, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye.